Are you sick and tired of entering data in Power Pages forms? Yeah, me too. Wouldn't it be so much better if an agent can do it? Well, currently in preview, you can now take your Power Pages forms and convert them into agents. Let's take a look. All right, the very first thing that you need to do when you're creating your agent is first off to make sure your Power Pages is enabled for agents. So I'm going to go into my Power Platform Admin Center. We're going to go here under the Copilot Hub and we're going to take a look. We're going to choose Power Pages. We're going to find our particular environment, pull that up. And then what we're going to do is make sure in the settings that everything has been enabled for the Copilots within Power Pages. Your IT administrators may have shut these off, so you may need to check with them to make sure that it's cool that you're using this. Now, again, this is in preview, so do this on a sandbox environment. You could do it on a developer environment, but I found that there were some authentication issues doing that, so I'm actually doing it mostly on a sandbox environment. Not that it can't be done in a developer environment, but you do need to do some setup, some additional authentication. A little bit beyond the scope of this particular video, but let's just keep diving into it and taking a look. The other thing you need to do within your Power Pages is in your particular, first off, you're going to need a site. So I'm just using my own personal website that I've recently set up for anybody who's interested in my training or advisory or consulting services. The other thing you need to do is go into the setup, and what you're going to need to do is make sure that the site agent is set up. So I'm going to go in here, and now you need to turn this on in order for you to be able to use the form to agent feature. Hopefully they'll make it so you don't necessarily need the site agent as well, because it does add a little bit of confusion later. But for the most part, let's just keep working away at it. We need to make sure the agent is created and that we've enabled the agent on site. All right, so far so good, cool. And here it's just a blank page, and what we're going to do is going to add our form. Now, I have other videos on creating forms. There's a lot of information out there. It's pretty straightforward. Not a big fan of the AI generated form here. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new form, and we're going to store the data. I'm going to store it in my opportunities. Basically because I'm using this to capture prospects. I've created my own opportunity table. If you saw my video on using Plan Designer to create a CRM system, this is basically still using a lot of that structure. I'm going to choose a form. I created a form earlier called Web Schedule a Call. Again, Power Pages forms are based on model-driven app forms. So you can go into a model-driven app and create those forms and reuse those in Power Pages, or create forms specifically for your Power Pages. That's sort of the way I do it. Or you could create one from complete scratch. But for this aspect, we're going to need to use an existing basic form, as they used to call them, to create the agent. And we just name the copy of the selected form. I'm just going to call it Web Schedule a Call. The data, we want to create a new record, on submit, display a message. I have CAPTCHA turned on, attachments off for now, and the AI form fill, I'm going to shut that off for now, but that is another cool feature that you should check out if you are still using forms. That is also in preview, but this allows you a quicker way to enter forms, and that's really what we're looking for. But that's not the purpose of this video, so we're going to shut this off. I'm going to click OK, and then what we're going to see here is this form is going to appear in our Design Studio, and of course we can move things around and do whatever. Now, if I was just to take a quick look at this, the other thing I would need to do is make sure my table permissions are set up on the particular table that I'm going to be working with on this form, and set up appropriate web roles. That will be important later. So far, I'm not really showing you anything new, but if we were to take a look at this particular form on the Power Pages website, and let's give it a minute. All right, I see my form come up, all this information, and of course with the CAPTCHA image coming, that will come up in a minute with the actual image. There it is. And so we can fill that in. So far so good. It's a pretty basic form. People can come in and fill that in, really not too onerous, but I just really want to show you the concept of the agents and where we can go with this. So the other thing I'm going to now do, I'm going to go pop back to the Design Studio, and we have this new agent button that's showing up on the menu. I'm going to select this. And of course, what is the purpose of our form? What are we going to do here? Basically, I want to collect some information. All right, I've basically given it this description. The purpose of the form, it's really just to collect some information about prospects. and what services they're interested in. And from there, I can set up a meeting. What I want to do is, now do I want to create AI prompts to autofill data using images? I'm going to leave this off for now, but that's another cool feature because that way we can upload image files that could fill out the form as well, or the form, or collect the information. From here, I'm going to create a new agent. I'm going to call this book a call, book a meeting, or I could choose from any existing agents that I've set up earlier. It doesn't look like I have any. I'm just going to hit continue. And what this is going to do is beginning to create the agent for the site. Now this is going to take a couple minutes as it creates this agent, and we'll come back when it's all ready to go. All right, so it's created the structure for our agent. It's given a full description, what read operations, update operations, delete operations, interaction rules, entity mapping. At this point, I cannot really go in and edit this at this stage of the game, but once this agent is created, I can go into Copilot Studio, and I am going to be able to make some modifications there. I'm going to hit continue. Now, security. I have be very careful with this. Right now we have no authentication. This, of course, if you have anonymous users coming in, you want them to interact with the agent, then yeah, you do have that set on. But you don't want bots hitting this, utilizing all your Copilot capacity. So again, be very careful. Here I'm going to add the roles. So kind of a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. I am going to pick anonymous users and authenticated users just for purposes of this, because someone could be coming in and want to submit information without authenticating. So I've added those rules. And then the other thing we need to do here is enable the web API. Now I've already gone in and had it done this, but basically here's the table. It is using the web API for this. Now the other thing it does, it actually opens it up for all the columns. What we want to do is go back into the Power Pages management app and only specify the columns on the form. This is really important because you really don't want to expose the columns that you don't necessarily want or need. So anyways, we've done this. We're going to hit continue. We want to review and confirm, basically giving us the standard warnings of testing and all that. I'm going to hit publish. And what this is now is starting publishing that agent. Now what we can do from here is, while this is waiting, we can pop over to Copilot Studio and we can further refine this particular agent that's being built. So we're in here, we see different things have been enabled, the response model, the instructions, and here I can go in and begin to edit those instructions if I want. I can add other knowledge sources, I can add actions, I can basically do all the things you can do in Copilot Studio to fully build out this agent and expand that a little bit. For now, I'm just going to, we're content, it's already been published. That's all cool. I'm going to go back to the Design Studio here. I'm going to close this window now, and then I'm just going to very quickly hit a sync. Now, just to update the information from Dataverse. Of course, it's giving me a warning about the anonymous role in our table permissions. I'm going to ignore that. Now you also notice here it's saying unable to show preview because this form now has been converted into an agent. Now the other thing that we need to do that is really not in the documentation, but it's really important, is there's a particular site setting. So I'm going to go into my Power Pages management app, which of course is the model-driven app where you can manage Power Pages metadata. I'm going to go into site settings. Okay, the other thing we need to do is add a site setting here, and that site setting I do have in the corresponding blog that goes along with this. It is the site Copilot Enable Native Control PVA Bots. It is something that I had to add in order to get the multiple selection of our bots, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to set that to true, and we're just going to save and close that particular site setting. While we're here, I'm actually in the Power Pages management app. Let's take a look at the web API information here. Notice here on this particular table, it has the star showing it's going to expose all columns to the web API. I really should go in here and specify the columns which are comma separated that only the web API should access, and not just leave it as star. For this purpose of the demo, I'm going to leave it as star. Again, another case of do as I say, not as I do, as we move forward with this. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back to the Design Studio now. So we've gone through, we've created the form, we've created an agent from the form. For authentication, because I made this a public site. If it is a private site, like I said, a private site, typically on a developer environment, you're going to have to go through some extra steps for authentication. For now, it is a publicly facing site. I will shut this off after this video, basically. And then basically it's just going through the regular stuff. So I'm just going to go into the home page here. I'm going to hit preview. As we all know, that does refresh the cache. And we see here it's cleaning up. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the little chat window here. And immediately we have the ability to book a call or my test bot. If you don't see that, you do have the little agent's home here. I actually have the other agent I created earlier. I'm going to just, again, click the book a call. Hopefully Microsoft will clean this up to make that a little bit more intuitive for your end users so they don't have to pick which particular agent to use. So here it says, hi, I book a call. How can I help you today? And I'm going to say, I'd like to book a call and provide some info. The agent is thinking, and it's basically saying, enter my company name. So I'm going to say ABC Inc. And then we're just going to go through. So here it's kind of going through the basic form creation type things. Yes, a form would be quicker, but you begin to see now this is going through an agent interface. This could go through like branching. It could ask different questions. We could have different topics here doing different things. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to have my first name, last name, email, and of course, phone number, 55. And then some information. I am interested. Cool. Now again, we could continue on and from this have the branching depending on the service, maybe ask some follow-up questions. We could have an action here to book a meeting. We could have it go out, pull in some other information. There's a lot of things we can do here with agents. This is just the bare bones to get you started from that particular form. I'm going to proceed with this. And then basically it's given me a summary. Do I want to update? Yes. Let's update all this information. The form has been filled. And now if I were to take a look at my particular system here, look at the opportunities, and here we see the record has been created in my Dataverse table from the agent from Power Pages. So again, this is preview, so it is a little bit clunky. It took me a bit to get this going properly. There are some other things with authentication. Of course, you can expand that Copilot agent to do a lot more things. But really, this is beginning to show that Power Pages is evolving from just that forms and lists into a platform specifically for agents that do tie back into Dataverse. So I'm really excited to see what more is going to come from this feature. So if you like this video, let me know. What would you use an agent for within Power Pages? I'm interested to hear about what you're up to. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and be ready for the next one.